Hello. We're
Welcome.
here. Finally. Oh, it's been a hell of a week. I had to delay this twice. But today's the day. Today we can finally do it. And next week should be normal. Next week should be Tuesday. And then we'll have a normal show with a guest, hopefully. So we'll see.
Our show's normally normal.
No, this is an unnormal show.
That's true.
This is the
It's abnormal even for us.
yes, this one's an abnormal show. But yes, I had family emergencies this week. Unfortunately, it was not good stuff, so I had to keep delaying, and it was done at the last second. That's why we had to keep moving the show, and that's also why we don't have a guest, because I don't know whether or not we can find someone. So it's just the two of us. And I know people have asked questions in the past about Battlezoo, and they've asked how even things like monster part system works, or if you have questions about Eldamon, or questions about the dungeons, or just about anything really. Because now we're starting to get the point. I'm like, wow, we got something like 7 or 8 products, and they're pretty. Because I'm trying to write them out, and I'm like, okay, it's actually fairly complex. It's like, okay, we have this Eldamon, and then the Eldamons work with the card game, and then the powers in the card game work with the Eldamon. And I'm like, this is actually a lot to explain. There's a lot going on. Like, it's like you'll get it, but it's very hard in writing. It takes up a huge amount of space.
It's tricky to design it too, to make it easy and intuitive for people to be able to do those things. But
yeah, it's funny because I mean, you know how to do this. I design Fortune 5. I architect. It's not even design. I do what's called information architecture, which is information architecture is the people who basically, if there's an Amazon website, like how do you structure the site for everyone, for the front end, for the UX, for the coders, for the back end, for the people fulfilling the orders. Like you have to do everything. And
the word architect always means they're above like designers and developers and things like that. They're like a level above that.
Yeah, it's called information architecture, and that's pretty much what I do, is our information architecture. And I've been doing it a very long time. So I'm very good at keeping this all in my head and seeing all the connections. So, and I know you are too. So the two of us know what's going on, but it's sometimes extremely hard to explain that to someone else, because it's like there's a lot going on in these systems. So yes, thank you everyone for the condolences. It's basically my step aunt, is that it? My wife's aunt died. And
is that an aunt-in-law?
Aunt-in-law, yes. I mean, it wasn't unexpected. She was 90. And she went very quick, so it wasn't like something prolonged, but still, there's never a good time when that happens. And so people going to Florida and people coming here, so it was a lot going on. So, and I've been running around ragged, so yes, I do sound tired because I am tired. But anyhow, look, we got some people, got someone from France. Hello from France. It's funny, I look. And we've talked about this. Our podcast is ranked throughout the world, the Roll for Combat. And it's very popular. I'm not bragging. It is. It's very popular
in France.
Bonsoir. It's popular in France. It's popular everywhere. It's always in the top 200 in pretty much every country in the gaming category. But sometimes you get like Luxembourg. It was 1. Like, what? Like every so often, Luxembourg loves us. Like Iceland, Greenland, it's way up there. It's in like the teens. It's always changing, but it's funny. In Canada, the United States, it's always usually pretty good. It's usually in the hundreds, but in those countries, let me turn off my email. In those countries, it is way up there. It's really funny because I was like, I wonder if I went to Luxembourg, I'd ever find someone. Yeah, Amsterdam.
Is it also popular in Liechtenstein and like Andorra?
Yes.
And a lot of
no, Liechtenstein. Yeah. Like all these
all those small countries that like sometimes have really weird tax laws and sometimes have like smuggling or other things like that as like high national industries. Maybe you're popular with smugglers, Stephen.
Man, you got to do something while you're smuggling.
They're like maybe smugglers want to play Jewel of the Indigo Isles because you can be pirates and they're heroes.
You never know, man. Jewel of the Indigo Isles. So I have learned something. By the way, so if anyone has questions
from the Netherlands,
yes, actually, I have a lot from Netherlands.
Is also from France.
Yes,
right?
We get a lot from Holland. Basically, I don't know what the word term is for those countries, and I think there's a term, but those countries they follow us a lot. Pretty much everywhere. Australia.
Yeah, it's a
New
super
Zealand.
tax haven, Ollie.
Yeah. Luxembourg. So we got all the Ireland we don't have a lot, and there's a ton. I actually know people who moved to Ireland because there's
just
a rule
to watch Roll for Combat there to put
yes
the number
because there's a tax haven. Everyone sets up their companies in Ireland now, and there's one town, and I forgot what it was called. And there was a rule that you have to be there now. You can't just like have an office with like a PO box, which everyone was doing. And I actually have a friend of mine. She actually ended up moving there, and she works there literally just as a tax haven. Like that's it. It's kind of weird. I forgot what I was saying, but if you have questions, ask them now. So we get the questions
up, and we can
queue
put
up
them
the questions.
In this Q&A.
Queue up the questions.
You can ask us anything. That doesn't mean we'll answer anything, but it does mean that you can ask us
You can even ask us questions about Pathfinder 2nd Edition, and if we can answer them, we will.
Joshua Hennington has a question about how the card game is going to be structured, and remember, it's not going to be pack-based and randomized. That's right. So, Stephen, you've put up before some images related to it, but basically, it's going to be a non-collectible card game.
Yes.
When you buy a pack, we're thinking of putting 2 of the elements in that pack, and you just get everything that is associated with those 2 elements.
Correct.
In that pack.
Yep.
So it's going to have all of the, so let's say it was fire and ice, it would have all the fire Eldamon, all the ice Eldamon, and then all the fire and ice moves, plus a few of the universal ones that you could put onto any of your Eldamon will be sprinkled throughout, but like not randomly, just like we'll know, oh yeah, these ones are in fire and ice.
Yeah, and then season 1 is 5 packs with 10 Eldamon elements.
And those are the 10 guaranteed elements.
Yeah, those are 10 guaranteed. And so it's non-collectible, so you'll have everything you need to play. However, that doesn't mean we won't release limited cards. The sort of the same way Magic does it, is they might release like alternate art or something like that. So
even something that's more non-collectible, like what's one that's not collectible, like I guess Sentinels of the Multiverse is a non-collectible card-based cooperative game, but you can also get like a promo version.
Well, you know what would be the closest?
This and that superhero in it, right? And those are not randomized, but they are like a separate promo.
I think Ascension is probably the closest.
Ascension's
very close to this. Yeah, because Ascension, you buy individual packs and you can mix and match them however you want. And it's actually, I actually like Ascension. It's funny, Ascension's such a good game, and there's a million clones of Ascension. And I almost was thinking ours could be, I mean, we're still working out the mechanics. I was like, I know we have a kind of a rock, paper, scissors / bluffing card game, but I actually like the mechanics of Ascension a lot too, that you build up your deck over time, and then
Ascension it has a very interesting like battle dominion-y deck building thing, but
I like that.
Well, yeah, what we've got isn't really deck building Dominion style. It's like it's based on the RPG. I mean, it almost is the same thing translated into a card game format and made into more of a bluffing game of choosing your moves, where you know what moves your Eldamon have. Those are the ones your Eldamon has in the RPG too, and you choose which ones to use and try to out strategize your opponent.
Yeah, and then as for the game itself, Alf asked how the card game is going to work. We're still working it out. I don't want to talk about it, quite frankly, because it's in really beginning stages right now.
It's super early stuff.
Yeah, so we don't have enough to discuss the mechanics just yet. I'm not too concerned. just because we both have a kind of concept of how it's going to work.
Yes.
And it's also based off the role-playing game aspect a bit.
Right.
So it's almost like the two have to be built together, and we haven't been building the mechanics
yet.
Can't give
details. I'll give a very broad strokes on the early stages of it is, since you're selecting what you're going to do secretly from your opponent, if you pick something, if you can guess which of their things they've chosen to do, you can pick something that really messes with it because it's turn-based.
Yeah, you know what it's actually
that's
like?
sort of what the bluffing comes into, is like, oh, are they going to do a big move? Maybe I'll do something that cancels that.
I'm thinking, if you've ever played, I love these books, and these are really old books. No one probably played them. The Fighting Fantasy books. Fighting Fantasy. Did you even play those, Mark? There are these.
There's a new Steam version of the Fighting
Fantasy
there's a lot.
And there's other things like
it. I did a Steam version of them, but I did not play the originals.
What's cool about the Fighting Fantasy was that you bought a book, and the book was like a skeleton or a minotaur or anything, and any book can fight against any other book. And in the book were moves, and then your moves would counter their moves, and then you would turn to pages, and you'd actually see what was cool. It's like, if I'm the skeleton, then I give you my book.
The same thing that I have is something else then.
Right. Okay. So if I'm the skeleton, I give you my book because you see what you're fighting, and if you're the minotaur, you give me your book. So I see the minotaur attacking me, and you see, and it was pictures of the skeleton doing all these combat maneuvers, and then same thing. And you would have to, based on what you just did, is what your next combat maneuver could be, and you would have to fight each other, and then you would have to like parry and then do hits.
So you figure out what you think your opponent is going to do, and then you pick something that is strong against it.
Correct.
Like, if they are doing a very costly attack, you can try to block it potentially, for example, right now, or even cancel it. But you have to be very careful about how you do that, and they could just trick you out and do something else.
Hold on, I gotta let my dog in. She's pounding on the door.
She wants in. All right. So let's skip ahead in questions. Skip in line, because you could skip in line if you actually, there wasn't a super chat that had a question. It was just a super chat. So Ollie Wright, thanks for super chatting with €5, even though it didn't have a question. That is,
but Cheese of Ages had a question.
Yeah, but it wasn't a super chat, right?
Yeah, it is. He goes, well, he's a member. She's a member of 2 months. So
do we do members?
Yeah. Members also get. They're the same as.
Cheese of Ages says, I find getting under the hood of the 2D mechanics and designing stuff as fun as playing it. I'm curious if either of you feel this way. Well, Stephen, I'll let you answer that.
What? Yes. Oh, yeah, that's the best part. It's in fact. Well, it's this thing, it's called, like in World of Warcraft, there was this thing called theory crafting. And these are the people who sat there figuring out all the math and figuring out all the mechanics for World of Warcraft. And, World of Warcraft was interesting because a little bit was hidden. Most of it was, public, but you have to figure it out. And then they would figure out all the math and figure out, like, what was the best attacks and the best, best classes and best races. Here, it's the same thing in the sense that everything's public, at least for 5e, not 5e, for Pathfinder. So you could actually sit there and theory craft and do the mechanics. And I really love, there's all these tools out there that will figure out, like, what's your chance to hit, if this is their AC, and this is how much damage you do, and what's the average damage you're going to get. And I mean, I'm a coder. I grew up designing games. I published my first game when I was in 10th grade, called Mall Maniacs, and I was always into game mechanics and design and coding, so I'm very into the math. I'm very into figuring out how the math works. I took 3 years to statistics in college, like really advanced statistics, and that stuff you need to know that stuff if you're going into game design. Like, that's the thing, it's like, especially in video game design, which I was in. Video game design is like all math. It's like there's so much math in video game design. It's kind of amazing. And there is a lot of math, at least in Pathfinder Second Edition. 5e, not quite as much, and I enjoy that. I like to see what a +2 versus a +3 does, and doing the mechanics. Not everyone does. Some people like just play the game and have fun. But to me, this is having fun. To me, it's like seeing how the math works and trying to not even optimize it, but just figuring out what's good at that time. Like, for example, this other day, we were playing 12th level characters against a 15th level elementalist creature. It was actually like an aspect of Norgaber. And they were really in trouble. Like, they were really getting their ass handed to them. And the magic user's like, okay, I can dispel him, but I probably only got about a 15% chance of it working. Do I dispel him with 15% chance? Do I heal someone? And, he's literally going through the decision at that level. Not everyone's going to do that, but he is going through figuring out, okay, this is a 15% chance. If I do this, I'll get this amount average of healing and maybe 60 points to give it to them, and so forth. And that was fun. And that was fun for me to listen to. It was fun for him. He ended up doing the healing instead, which was the right call, because then that guy critted twice. They took it down, and I got to let my dog out because she's annoying. You go, Mark.
Okay, well, I'm going to start by saying that if you're like, oh man, I wanted to design games, and Steven says I need advanced super statistics from college to design them, don't worry. Like, very, very few game designers, game developers, people who are in the industry actually have that.
No, just the people I know seem to all have it, though.
Yeah, very few of them do. Like, I know because I did have that class, and that was an outlier in the industry.
Okay.
But in terms of my answer to this question, I think it's like designing stuff, like designing the 2E mechanics. I designed a lot of the 2E mechanics, like the actual mechanics for 2E. So yes, of course, I enjoy it. I wouldn't have been able to make it through the really, really crunch times when we were getting the game together after the playtest, with just like a month where I only took one day off. That happened at one point. And then like this is the worst choice I took one Sunday off, and then like executive came in and threw a pizza party on that day. It's like, wow, so many people are working on this Sunday, and then gave a thank you to everyone who came in that day. I was like, that was the one day I took off. Yes, I really like designing 2E and 2E mechanics. Like, yes.
And I'm doing less. I do less design than you. I mean, like, I come up with a lot of the concepts and come up with a lot of the big thoughts, and then you kind of do the nitty gritty. Like I was saying before, like I'm very good at architecture, and I'm very good at the big ideas and tying them together. And then, like, even my day job, like, I used to be a coder. I don't really code anymore, but I do come up with the architecture, and then the coders go in and build the website or build the app we're building. And I still run it and like show run it in a way. I still make sure everything's like done correctly, but at that level, I don't go in. Let's go back
to some of the other questions that we skipped.
You got a lot of questions.
Super chats. So what is your favorite Eldamon element, Steven?
I don't know. We haven't written enough of them yet.
Okay. Fair enough. Let's just look at the names of them.
I know. I got to bring it up. Wait, I have a picture.
Look at the border and all the.
I'm looking at the picture. I'm looking at them. The thing is, although it's called wood, I call it grass. I kind of like the grass/wood element a lot. I like death because I like the doggy. They're all so good though. It's like, well, I'll tell you one thing we're doing. Here's something we're doing more. I like ice because everyone does fire. And think about it, like every single element is always fire. And I know why. It's very evocative. It's very, there's a lot of reasons why people use fire.
No, it totally is. If you think about the Pathfinder iconics in Pathfinder First Edition, Second Edition changed it a little, but the cleric was the fire cleric who had fireball. the Oracle was the Flame Oracle.
Right.
Like Kineticist was the Fire Kineticist. Like everything that could be fire was fire.
And we're doing
Pathfinder First Edition Iconics.
Yeah, our elemental avatar, who you'll see very soon, is ice. Is ice based, and I kind of like that in was it the Invincibles, Frozone?
He
Frozone, yeah, he was ice too. I was like, yeah, there you go, because you don't always need fire, man. Everyone does fire. I also see ice is harder to do, and it's not quite, but you can do ice. Trust me, you get someone good.
Good things you can do with ice.
Ice is pretty interesting. Choice. Yeah, ice is the. You know what? It also. Yes, fire hurts, but man, ice is much worse than fire, in my opinion.
That's fair.
An ice burn, oof, terrible.
I'm gonna go with time, so let's hope we unlock it as an actual element.
I didn't even think about that one. That one's like, I don't even know what we're doing for that Eldamon if we get it. That's gonna be a crazy one.
Well, we have at least one that is already in the orders, and I know what that one is. But we haven't figured out what the other ones would be, because we have at least one piece so that we can use it as a preview to be like, hey, we'll get time element and this Aldebaran. I forgot to do the pop-up on this. There's a pop-up that will tell us when people super chat.
Yeah,
there is a pop-up. Look, Shirker just asked, are there any dual type Aldebaran? So in general, unlike Pokemon where there could be multiple types and then you have to figure out a complicated who's weaknesses and resistances here, this is not done by a computer system, and so it's much simpler to keep it at one type. In terms of, what I mean, right? You wouldn't be able to remember what happens if it's grass and poison in Pokemon, and how does that change things, or being poison and ghost. It's much easier if you can just look at a lookup chart. It's oh, this is my element, these are my weaknesses and resistances. So we're not going to go with that dual type for the sake of simplicity and to make the Eldamon elements kind of distinctive in their playstyle. You can still get universal moves plus the ones from your element.
Let's see what else.
That is my answer to Shirker. Let's go back up to see, because there were a bunch of other questions.
Joshua Henning wants to know, how will the release schedule work? Will there be
5 of them, right?
Different formats or an online for it? Okay, so release schedule for what? There's a lot. Okay.
For the cards, because he was
I'll go through everything. Question. So for the next Kickstarter, their Battlezoo, there's the Bestiary, Strange and Unusual, and hopefully we'll get that out this year. That one we're that one we're working on. We already did one. It's not so hard to do now. I know what I'm doing.
About half of the monsters during judging.
Yeah. So that one will go.
I haven't done a full pass on them, right? But it shouldn't be too bad.
That one won't be so bad, and I'm already getting the artwork, and
it's lengthy.
It's lengthy, but the layout's been done before. I don't have to redo the layout. That one's going to go pretty quick. Hopefully get that done this year. Aldemon's going to take a huge amount of time. I won't even guess. But when it comes to the Ancestries, that one's easy. The Year of Monsters, there will be one Ancestry every month. And that we're going to do way ahead of time. I already have the artwork. I think I will have all the artwork for all 12 Ancestries by the end of this month. Yeah.
For the covers.
For the covers, yeah.
We need interior art too.
Yeah, interior. But at least I'm doing covers for now. And those will be done. That will be done.
Honestly, the only reason I can think of that we wouldn't be able to finish the Bestiary by the end of the year is because if we're getting ahead on the Ancestries and doing some of the necessary Eldamon work, just to sort of describe and benchmark things so that the cards can get started and things like that.
Oh, yeah, that's
that
true.
Might push the Bestiary, just because if we didn't have to start Eldamon until the Bestiary was done, I'm absolutely certain that we'd finish the Bestiary this year. But I have a feeling we have to do a decent amount of the Eldamon work due to the physicality of the cards. Otherwise, the cards, which will take a certain amount of time to print and get out, are probably going to come pretty late or something like that.
The cards the only good news is the cards are being printed somewhere local, so they'll go.
Oh, okay.
They get printed a lot
That's
quicker
gonna help.
than the books. The books take forever.
Never mind that. Maybe we can work out the logistics
Well, we still
on
do.
this.
We still do. But the cards. This is actually on purpose. The card
That's
game
very
is
clever.
printed pretty quick. I think it can be done in just a few weeks. So
Oh, snap.
So
Well, that's good.
yeah, that's so. But we'll start on that right away. I would imagine that will be the first thing we start on, is card game / Eldamon, and then sneak in Ancestries and
Mm-hmm.
Bestiary as we need to.
So,
But
Steven, if you were a dragon, what kinds of things would be in your horde?
oh, really? Well, I wasn't done with that. I was going to say that every season. So for real quick, the card game, we're supposed to have one come out every 3 months.
Oh, right. We didn't answer the one he actually wanted to know.
Yeah, no. So wait, no. So Battlezoo Ancestries, one a month, every month throughout 2023, and then Battlezoo or Eldamon Battles is what we're calling the card game. There will be there's 5 boxes, but then there's one for winter, spring, summer, fall, and unfortunately shipping is not great. But the way we'll do it is, if you want, you can have them all shipped as they come out, and just pay for the shipping. And unfortunately it's not media type because it's cards, so shipping isn't great. I mean, it'll be okay. We'll do our best to make the shipping decent. It's also not super heavy, so it should be okay.
Right.
Otherwise you can get them shipped. I think it'll probably be like, you could either have it as they come out, so it would be 4 times a year, twice a year, or at the end. And that will be a choice during pledge management, so you can just figure out whatever's best for you. Some people might not want to wait. There's not an online element yet, but trust me, it's in the back of our head. Like, that won't be too bad.
It wouldn't be hard.
It wouldn't be that hard.
Make a online version of it, and that would help with like the hiding what move you're doing.
Yeah, it's
for
not
the
that
other
hard.
person, things like that.
It's not that hard.
I will say that
worried.
like, based on the fact that if we want to have one that's out in spring of 2023, we definitely will need to do a lot of the Eldamon work before we do the Bestiary. It may actually force the Bestiary to be like last or later, just to make everything work out.
Well, yes.
We'll see what we can manage.
Yeah. And then what else do we have?
I think those are the main things we announced.
If you're a dragon, what would be in your hordes?
Yeah, what would be in your horde? Like, what type of thing would be your horde?
I don't know. Everything that's in my room.
Yeah, I think both of our hordes might be books. Like,
I mean, seriously, my horde is my office. I have this. I always joke about this because, like, I started out and I lived in a studio apartment in Manhattan, and studio is not that big, so I had everything in my studio. And then over time, I got to bigger and bigger places. And now I have a nice big house, but I'm not allowed to have anything in my house. So I'm back to my office, and everything I have is in my office. So I'm literally ended up in a studio apartment smaller than my original studio. I'm in one little room where I have everything, and that's it. That's why all my books are here. Like, there's nowhere else in this house shows anything geeky.
This is your horde.
This is my horde.
This is Steven's horde. You can see his horde.
Like, it's like, oh, your horde, like, because you think, oh, you have a house, you could just have, like, fantasy paintings here and put up things, and some people do, but unfortunately, that's not my life, and I am not allowed to present anything geeky outside of these 4 walls. So I'm in a 300-foot room, and every single thing I own is in here, and then the rest of the house for the kids and the wife. So. What about you? What about you, Mark? Your horde is your apartment.
My horde is also probably books, because Paizo
books and computers and video games.
Paizo gives you a copy of each thing that Paizo puts out. So
yeah, I actually
since it's free, it's affordable for a game designer.
Yeah. I mean, I keep buying. These shelves hold a huge amount. I just filled up 2 of these monster shelves. I'm actually running out of space. I don't think I can fit another one behind me. I might have to try. I actually do have a basement I can put everything in, but I don't like to put it down there because then I know it disappears from sight and I forget I even have it.
that makes sense.
Let's
see. There's another question about the demi-plane in Pathfinder Nexus and whether you can add like third-party books.
I have no idea.
I do not know.
I have no idea.
They're
probably
not even fully released on it yet.
Yeah, probably not. If they're using the 5e model, then no. The answer would be no.
So Aleph wants to know if we reach threshold for additional elements to be added, will we get additional card decks in this set, in this Kickstarter? I believe the answer is no.
No.
Right? But that doesn't
The answer
mean
is no unless we get to like insane levels.
Yeah, because that's also going to push a variety of factors. That's what I thought. But if the other elements exist, that means that if in our next Kickstarter we could put those into it.
Well, yeah, it's season 1.
Yeah, if they don't, we'd have to expand.
Season 2
less, and we'd expand the elements that currently existed. Right, but if they exist, then we can get them.
Season 2 would be the other elements because there's 10 more, so we can just keep going from there.
Polar Bear Bar wants to know if the Indigo Owls Player's Guide will come out before the Adventure Path. So I want to make one thing clear before we even answer this question, which is there are 2 separate products that are large, giant books that are part of the Kickstarter that sort of split off from the original Indigo Isles that you may have gotten in the Kickstarter. So there's the adventure, the AP, and there's the Indigo Isles character guide. Both of those contain things that the original Kickstarter said were going to be in the adventure, but some of them turned out to be better to be in like a separate book that you could have players and GMs both read without spoilers and had a lot of rules content. So both of those 2 things, like, I don't know which one is going to be ready first. Now, Player's Guide is not something that the Kickstarter said that we would do. Although in the past, we have talked about being open to and wanting to, at some point, create a free Player's Guide that puts in some basic material for players like Paizo does for their APs. And I don't know when that's going to be released either, but I do want to make it clear that like the players read this little PDF with some info on like which skills are good to take and which like classes might fit well is separate from the Indigo Owls character guide. The Indigo Owls character guide is kind of more like Lost Omens character guide, that it has like all sorts of
character guide's going to be 100 pages.
It's long.
Yeah, I mean the character guide's an actual book on its own. It's like it has all the ancestries.
It is going to be like around 100 pages.
It's long. And that's its own book. So and then
like I don't know which one will come will be done between that and the AP, because the AP started way sooner, but like you've been saying, Blando is busy at getting the last of Blando's maps versus when we finish the character guide. Who knows?
Here's the thing. The art, the first adventure, there's 3 adventures, and the first adventure is 95% done. Now here's the problem. And I'm doing layout as we speak. I need 100%. And it's like, even for layout, I can't do it. I can't do layout without 100 because the content is so tight. And WoW is an adventure path hard to lay out. At first it's easy, but actually now I'm doing it, I'm like, ooh, this is... Why do so many people... there's the thing. Here's the problem. Of everything that people put out more adventures than anything else. So I would think that the easiest content to put out would be adventures, because that's what everyone seems to put out. I found out the hard way that the easiest by far was lore for the Dragon book. That was
the easiest thing.
Really easy. That was
drastically the easiest.
Yes, that was easy to lay out.
As someone who was working on hardcore mechanics for years,
lore
I didn't really get to do almost any lore for a long time when I started at Paizo, because we were in PF1 and there wasn't much lore in the books. When I suddenly went to doing a lore section, I was like, oh my gosh, I can go through this like 5 times faster than what I'm used to doing. And that relies on having stellar freelancers who write great lore, which is something that is easier to find than the impossible of finding a freelancer, even if they are the game's designers who write perfect design that doesn't need to be checked by anyone, right? So lore is the easiest.
Lore is the easiest to lay out and to design. Next would come strangely game mechanics in terms of layout.
Only for layouts.
Only for layout. That's correct. Only for layout. I'm doing layout.
Yes. Yes.
Then would come monsters, because monsters are actually really hard to lay out because you got to
Mm-hmm.
get it just right, and there's a lot of breaks, and there's a lot of there's a lot of stats. You got to get it just right. Luckily, I've done about 200. Well, actually, sorry, 500 monsters at this point, so I'm getting pretty good at it. I can crank out monsters pretty fast. Oh, I forgot in their ancestries. Ancestries are also pretty easy to lay out.
Well, you said game rule
Mechanics, ancestries. Those are all the same.
A little different.
Yeah, they're a little
and
different.
Classes
Yeah, they're a
are
little different.
When you meant game elements, you probably meant like a list of feats or a list of spells.
Right. I meant Dragon Book, monster parts,
like
ancestries. That's what I meant.
You meant like when you said game rules elements, you even meant subsystems.
Yeah,
like
even subsystems.
I'm going to tell you, that's one of the hardest possible things to design. Maybe it's easy to lay
definitely
out,
to design, it's up there. But for layout, it wasn't. But you and I were on the same boat, and it was also extremely structured. And we didn't.
We were on the same boat. But let me tell you that the amount of effort per word that went into that Battlezoo Bestiary monster part system was incredibly high because I had to make spreadsheets and do a lot of math.
And then you have. And I would even say it's like, okay, you have like lore here, and then the next one's an adventure path is like way at the top, like way, oh my god,
laying out, laying out every kind of thing,
everything. It is. I'm never doing this again. It is so unbelievably hard, It is, damn. I was thinking this. It's like, God, have you ever had anything in your life that you love and hate like as equally? Because I sit there and I'm like, I love this adventure path. I love what we came up with. I think the story is fantastic. The art is incredible. Just the flow is really good. People are playing it and they love it. They love Rumplank. They love the characters and the setting, and no humanoids makes it really feel alive. But damn, it is such a pain. There's like 10,000 moving parts, and it's like, congratulations, you have 950 moving parts. You still can't finish it. And I'm like, ugh, I need all 1,000. It's so annoying.
The secret of adventure paths is that love-hate aspect of like really being proud of it and loving what it is, and also being like, oh my gosh, this was an ordeal that strained my mental health, is something that almost everyone who is involved with an adventure path feels.
It is so hard.
It's just what it is, Stephen.
I didn't realize that. I you know what? I didn't think it would be this hard. It
really is.
It is incredibly hard
on the authors, and it is just as hard on laying it out. It's
the author, and even writing it. Writing it took forever.
Writing an adventure path is a huge
100,000 words easily.
It was very
difficult. God, yeah. It's incredibly hard.
I mean, most APs aren't 100,000 words, but our part 3
is almost part 3 is almost 100,000 words. Just part 3.
Part 3 is very long. When you add that to Linda's other peripherals, it gets to over 100,000.
I know, and that's one part.
Yep. It's very lengthy. So there's a question from Festorian Isoldenturf, which is, will you be able to use Eldamon on animal companions, mounts, and familiars to get an elemental aspect? So they are their own separate thing. That said, it's easy enough to do a familiar that looks like an Eldamon, because familiars are very shapeable into whatever form you want, but they definitely are going to be separate from animal companions and mounts. The idea is, because in like some of the media we're looking at, right, like in Pokemon or in Final Fantasy X, when Yuna summons a creature out or anything like that, that you phase out and the creature comes in, they need to be actually pretty strong because you phased out. So like that's all your thing. Whereas animal companions and mounts are not strong enough to be assumed to kind of be replacing you. So the mechanics will be different. But it's always easy to be like, well, yeah, your familiar is a lotus snake, and does it have all these moves from Eldamon? No, it's a lotus snake that is hanging out with you. So let's see, what is the next question here? Now we got back to those super chats from a while before.
No, there was a few in here. someone was assuming that Eldamon Battles was digital only. No, it's a physical game.
No, yeah,
it's physical game.
It's a real. We mentioned
Actually,
that before.
Asker Ling asks, "Hey Mark, pray tell what's your favorite thing about Pathfinder Second Edition?"
Oh yeah, there's a question. My favorite thing about Pathfinder Second Edition. Gosh, there's too many things to name. But people asked me that like in interviews like around the release, and I guess I'll say my favorite mechanic, like the 3-action system, is what most people will put at the top, and it is great. It is not my top. My top is still 4 degrees of success, because the frustration of save or lose effects in any other D20 edition where you do not have the 4 degrees of success is so intense, where it's just like, oh, I wasted my turn because they saved, or oh, the fight is over because they lost. Is just so unfun that that and a bunch of other things you can do with the 4 degrees of success makes it my favorite aspect.
Here's one.
Too many to name that I like.
Okay, here's one, and we can talk about this for hours, but we're not going to. Jana B, did you ever consider using something besides a D20 as a base die, like a 2D10 or 3D6?
I've designed multiple like small games that I've only played with myself and Linda using all sorts of other base dice, and it's very interesting. But I haven't considered doing that in Pathfinder Second Edition, and I don't really recommend it.
I don't recommend it because the flat math, as Mark said, it's like the reason I said you kind of need to have not a degree in math, but be pretty strong in math, is because I have a video game background, and video game backgrounds, oof. You not just have to like the top people. Not only do they have degrees in math or animators, like people at Pixar, these people have advanced degrees. Like they have like PhDs in math. Like that's how strong your math has to be, because it's all math in the end. But for tabletop role playing and board game, no, you do not need to be as strong with math. But if you're going to start moving into D20s, 2D10 systems or 3D6 systems, you better believe you're going to have to be strong in math, because now you're talking about statistical analysis. You're talking about tables that are no longer flat, and things get really weird when that happens. So
computers can do some pretty wild out there stuff, but tabletop, a lot of designers do not have advanced statistical degrees, and so it's okay if you don't. If you do, it'll help you.
Yeah, but you want the flat tables.
2D10 and 3D6 are definitely fine for some systems, but it's not great for PF2 because it's going to really throw off, again, those crit ranges that I was talking about before. And it very, very much skews towards the center of the bell curve, which also means that like you are going to be in huge trouble if you're fighting against a boss, because you're almost never going to be able to get the die rolls you need to defeat the boss, whereas the boss is going to wreck you consistently and is not going to fail, because it'll be hard, or very rarely because it's hard for it to get the low rolls it needs to fail. And a lot of the things that make Pathfinder Second Edition almost uniquely able among the D20 based systems to actually use the same monster as a mook when it's much lower level than you, and then as a boss when it's much higher level than you, very carefully uses that math and statistics to do that. I mentioned in detail, because Rules Lawyer asked me to do it in his video with me. He was like, go into the hairy math, and I did. But all of that doesn't work if you use 2D10 or 3D6. Like you could redo everything to make it work, but then you would have to redo it all. So I like 2D10 and 3D6, but I don't think you should just put it into PF2.
No. I mean, the easiest way I would say is D20 systems like 2-dimensional design, and the 3D6 systems like 3-dimensional design. You have this whole other axis you have to worry about, which is like
it's not as hard as that. You can figure it out, and you don't even need advanced statistics. Even like a high school statistics class is enough.
To do it well, you need to know what you're doing.
Things enough that if the game is really based around if the game is based around action economy and failing a decent amount of time against bosses to make up for the action economy, which PF2 is, versus like really curb stomping weak monsters, which may have an action economy against you, you're going to throw that off when you use a bell curve. And for people who don't understand what I mean by bell curve, basically if you roll multiple dice and add them together, it's way less likely to get an extreme value than it is just rolling one die, because there's a 1 in 20 chance of getting a natural 20, but the chance to get an 18 on 3d6 is only 1 in 216, because all three of them have to come up with 6.
Yep.
So yeah, like you said, we could go into a whole
episode. But you and I can go into this for a long time. As somebody who plays a lot of craps and a lot of poker, I'm not getting into this. All right. That's a nice long one. You read this one.
Is the world a la carte like Golarion or Abertoral, where it's got a chivalry and then an Asian culture and then an African setting? The answer is it doesn't work like that because of first of all, there's a lot of different ancestries. There's not really as many humans. Second of all, there's a huge amount of cultural diffusion that happened recently in the world of Alucard during a golden age, where people would just go across the world and share cultures. So you're not going to find a thing where it's like, oh, this one is European chivalry, and this one is exactly Africa, this one is exactly Asia. But what you will find when we actually eventually, if we do make a world setting,
we're starting. It's starting.
We're thinking about.
We're doing it backwards, like through.
We are
through our books.
Pathfinder
we're doing it.
Kind of did that too, right?
Yeah.
Rise of the Rune Lord showed you Sandpoint before the setting book came out.
Yeah,
is that it's a blend, it's a fusion. But we're not going to allow to use that sort of stagnant thing where it's like, oh well, the default is that it's the Euro fantasy, and then only in these set areas is it okay to put in other stuff. No. So I even have some people tentatively that were lined up if we ever do a setting book, and these are authors from just a variety of different cultures and perspectives. And the idea is everywhere in the world has influences that were from multiple different places. So we want to see African, Asian influences or influences from all different kinds of places throughout, rather than putting them in enclaves and then calling the white Euro fantasy the default everywhere else. So it's different.
I will say you will get the God system pretty soon. That will be out, and when you see that, it'll help. The balance system is, I think, pretty much unlike anything out there in the sense that it's built on the concept that there literally is balance. And I mean, I'm not giving anything away because it's part of the game.
You said that before.
It's that there's good, like a perfect example is that, like, if I'm the god of peace and you're the god of war, we're actually brother and sister, or sister and sister, brother and brother, or whatever.
They're siblings. The gods are gender fluid. It's complicated.
It's complicated. The gods are basically gender fluid. They're siblings. That's the easiest way to say it. So they're siblings, but if one of them dies, the other one dies. So they're very much, the closest analogy is the Dark Crystal with the Skeksis and the I forgot what the other ones were called, the good guys. So remember, if one Skeksi died, then their counterpart immediately died. So because of that, although these people are often dynamic, they're often opposed to each other, they can't be that opposed, because if either of them gets too far and something happens, then it happens to the other one too. So that's why there's balance in the world. And they often will act through third parties, which is the humanoids and the people on the world. So they can't do anything, or they try not to do things themselves, because that can get them in trouble. So they often are doing things through intermediaries and through their priests and such.
Right. One other thing that's unique before we move on to the super chat, or that's different, I guess not unique. Most settings, like the popular religion that's in that setting, kind of claims to have created it all. The balance doesn't. They're kind of originally interdimensional tourists who came to the world and from somewhere else, and then just set up there. They're like, no, we know we're not the gods who created this world, but that is something that is kind of refreshingly different than what you expect to see.
And they walk around. They actually live. The gods physically live on Alucard. Like, you will see them. And there's actually I haven't even told Mark this. I actually have the main city designed in my head. There is.
You told me about it. There's a bridge on it.
Yes, there's a bridge, and it's actually it's like there's literally their home is part of like the capital of the world, and their home is like where you can go and see them. And it's interesting because it's defended by only one thing that people are aware of. There's obviously it's their god, so there's many more defenses, and it's incredibly effective. Is that if you try to either teleport or walk into it, you appear on the other side. If you try to teleport in it, you just appear outside. That's it. And people, you can't even get into it unless you're invited. So that's all the known defenses, and it's actually worked amazingly well for thousands of years. Now, obviously, if they have more powerful magic, maybe people, but it's one of these like, why can't you just go there? Why can't you just like walk in and destroy it? It's like, try, nothing happens. It just doesn't work. So it's like this amazingly effective deterrent. I can talk about the gods forever because they're really cool.
To the super chat from Ollie Wright. Yes. What's the most underappreciated or unnoticed feature of Pathfinder 2 that you think is important to Pathfinder 2?
Oof.
I'm gonna say Rarity is the most underappreciated feature in Pathfinder 2, mainly because of the fact that, due to the fact that Rarity is in 5e and does something completely different. A lot of people don't understand what Rarity is doing for you in Pathfinder 2. It's not like the most important feature, but it's underappreciated compared to what it does, because what it does is it helps you in world building. It helps your group's social contract, because not having any idea of what Rarity is can lead to people like players, like, not out of malice, but just like finding something on a Archives of Nethys, or it used to be even worse on D20 PFSRD because they couldn't use the world lore just because they weren't open, like an open site, and they had ads. So they would just put in something that if they had the world lore, it would be like, there's only one copy of this ever that existed, and it was in the library of this evil boss who at the end of one adventure path. And then people would not see that, and they would just be like, I should get this spell. And it was like not a very balanced spell, and it was kind of meant to be like, it's really weird, and it could be balanced, but it could be used in very extreme ways, and GMs, a beginner GM probably wouldn't want to allow it because of the way it distorts your setting. And so Rarity allows you to give out special rewards and actually have something that has that kind of lore on it. Very easily explain what that is. Make it so that people immediately, when they read it on Neth, it's like, oh, this says rare or unique. Okay, I know that this isn't just everywhere. And it lets you kind of tag for GMs the fact that like teleport or speak with dead, spells like that could make it harder for them to run plots by making them not common. It's just a look again kind of idea. Makes it easier for you to give out special rewards for your PCs without being forced to be able to homebrew a new magic item. You can just give out a rare magic item. Whereas if the assumption is that the players can just get every magic item that they've ever seen in the Ultimate Equipment book in Pathfinder First, if you're like, hold on a second, I'm going to make it so you can't always find those ones in Ultimate Equipment, and I'll give you some of them as rewards, and then we'll say you have a 10% chance to find it if it's not in the core rulebook. Some players will just be like, well, you're just taking it away from me to give it to me later. They won't feel happy about it. So Rarity kind of plays the role of something that gives you multiple different beneficial toggles that you can use in the setting. And that's why I think it is the most underappreciated.
I'll answer in 1 minute because we have a good super chat. Is that my thing is actually that people don't understand how well balanced and designed the system is, and it bothers me when people are complaining about things. That's my phone. It's a little loud. They are complaining that, I don't want to call them munchkins, but I know people complain that Pathfinder is like, quote, too hard and so forth. First of all, I don't believe so. Second of all, I don't think they understand just how well designed the game is and how elegant it is and how complex it is all at the same time. And I've said this many times, is that designing things to look easy and appear easy is the hardest thing there is in the world. Like, you have no idea. and no one appreciates it, which is why Mark and I get along, because I understand.
And that's why I always say that my advisor at MIT always used to say simple is not equal to trivial.
No.
When you find something that someone came up with before you that it seems so simple once you learn it in school and you're like, oh, that's trivial. That great scientist didn't do anything useful. It's like, no, they did, because now you can learn it and it's so simple, but no one thought of it until that point.
Yeah, and they don't understand just how insanely slick and well-designed Pathfinder 2nd edition is, and I do. And I know when people complain, they're like this and this and this and that. I'm like, A, if you don't like it, then fix it. And B, the game is designed tight, but it's very, very, very easy to fix on your own. It doesn't even require anything. Just give yourself another ancestry or another free ancestry feed, which I know Mark hates, but a lot of people do it because that does solve a lot of.
I don't hate it. I specifically created the rules for Ancestry Paragon. I like.
Oh, okay. I thought you did say in one of the past ones you didn't love it, or you felt that was the wrong way to play.
No, I like Ancestry Paragon. I like
that you get a free one.
I like free archetype.
Oh, that you get the free one at level 1. Okay, I thought you were against that.
I said that you shouldn't give new beginner players.
Oh, new beginners. That was
free
it.
Archetype at level 1 because of the fact that it's normally a second level option.
Correct.
And it makes it much harder for them to build.
Oh, I see. I misunderstood. I understand. That actually makes more sense.
You can give them an Ancestry Paragon at any time, and if it's an experienced player, you could give them a free archetype
and
level 1.
It's very easy.
Specifically saying that if someone's new to the game, that it would be a huge mistake to give them free archetype and make the free archetype go at level 1 instead of 2.
But this is what I would say.
I was saying, and that's from a complexity standpoint, not because I don't think free archetype is cool.
Like we are playing high level Pathfinder, and it feels exactly the same as low level. This is like that.
I feel like it feels more powerful, but
it feels powerful.
It runs easier,
but it runs just as
equally.
It's just as the combats are just as long as low level. There's definitely a lot more options, and it's way more powerful. But it's not broken in any way.
It's a little more complicated because people.
Oh, definitely. Oh, especially for the GM, because there's like 10, like the monsters have a million things they can do. So it's definitely more complicated. But at that point, especially if you've been playing, you feel like it. And I'm like, this has been like the grail of gaming forever. Is that high level play works the same as mid and low. No one talks about it. Like no one talks about it. Like it was accomplished, and yet it's like And by the way, no one, and this is no exaggeration, plays D&D past 10th level because it breaks down at that. And there's a lot of statistics.
It is an exaggeration.
It is, and it's not, because there's
not that much of an exaggeration.
It's not. There's a lot of statistics to back this up. There's no statistic
that says that literally no one plays.
No. Okay. But there's a lot of statistics showing that it goes like this, and 10th level goes. Down. It's a cliff. Like after 10th, no one.
It's totally a cliff.
It's a cliff.
Some people do still play it.
No, it's true.
Not very many.
But the point is like, and there's reasons, because it's extremely hard.
So the super chat you wanted to answer from Dank Magician,
yes,
who's hyped for Indigo Owls and wants to know about the player's guide, which they probably mean the character guide. So we actually already answered this earlier.
I'll get into a little more detail. Here's the problem. Okay. The reason these come out so late is because everything has to be done. And we haven't finished every aspect yet, because and even the ones at Paizo I know were done at the very last second before they were put out. So ours is, I mean, what do you think, Mark? I mean, like, what do we need to put in it? I mean, we have.
Are you talking about the character
guide, free one,
which
the
we
free
did
one,
promise people, or the player's guide?
I'm talking about the free.
The free player's guide wouldn't take that long, except for the fact that we need to do the things we promised first.
Well, I know, but it's like, well, okay, well, there's the players. Okay, so let's back up.
Actually, promise there's the PDF a free player's guide.
Okay, there's the PDF player's guide, but we have all the ancestries. You're working on the gods.
Yeah, and we're not going to put the full ancestry write-ups in the free player's
guide.
No.
Anyway, I'm talking about the paid one.
We can describe them, yeah.
Yeah,
so if you're talking about
the
non-free character guide, the one that is like the 100-ish page book that split off some of the rules, there are two things that I need to do, and I'm partway through the gods, and then I will need to finish the dragon stat blocks, which were written for us by Jessica Catalan, and she is excellent, and I expect it will not take very long. Then you would need to lay it out. But even then, if you decided you were going to prioritize that above the adventure for whatever reason, depending on how long your layout takes, also I need to put in the playtesters' feedback. I haven't done that yet.
Right.
We would probably be able to get it, I don't know, like sometime in pretty early July if that layout was your priority.
No. I mean, I'm doing the layout right now. I mean, all the ancestries are laid out. I didn't do the dragons yet.
Well,
also, the problem is
do it until I'm done with
I know, and it also questions how much art to put in, because that's another question.
You can do the Sea View Gazetteer and the Rumplank Gazetteer, and the Rumplank Gazetteer is pretty long.
Yeah, I'm actually doing that right now. Actually, I was working on that last night. So, and the layouts for those for both the actually that layout, if I put it in the book, will be the same. So it's.
I want to have the playtesters look at the pre-gens, but then we can put them in the backgrounds, which will also be in the player's guide. We can put in Old Woody. So there's a lot of things that we could put in.
That's a lot. Well, Old Woody was only promised for the adventure, so that doesn't have to go into the player's guide.
Oh, okay. I figured that I mean, yeah, you can put it wherever you want.
I got to look into what goes into what. That's the other thing. The player's guide.
That is a good point.
Yeah.
Whereas we made sure that the Rumplank and Sea View guides were written in character by a character from that place. And so it doesn't have spoilery information that only the GM should know, because it has what like someone who lives in that settlement might know. And it doesn't, it's not going to say like, this farmer in Seaview who lives on a farm and loves farming bluebells, parentheses, chaotic evil arched lich level 25 or something like that. It's not going to do that.
Yeah.
That goes in the character guide, and it means if your character's from Bluebell or Rumplank, you can kind of just read it and kind of know about the settlement.
I don't know, I might even put out a version 1 that's not totally done. I don't know, I'm kind of toying with the idea of putting out one sooner than later and then coming out with the second one, like a beta version, just for the
of the character guide or of the adventure.
Of the character guide.
Okay.
And the adventure.
Yeah, I mean, we could potentially do a beta version that like didn't have certain things in it.
Yeah, because right? That way at least people can get going.
Playtester feedback on the Ancestries, for example.
Right, because if you finish Ancestries, if we have Ancestries and Rumplank and Seaview, maybe the gods, I don't know. That I don't know how much art I need for that. I mean, that should be enough even for a beta, because that can get people, and obviously, actually, if we could get the NPC, the PCs in there, maybe. I mean, that's enough to get people going. Because I get it. It's like there's a balance, and I'm curious what you guys think. There's a balance between like, do we put it out, and you just want to see the final product? And I know people do, because like 5e Dragons just came out. And when it finally came out, a ton of people ordered it, because I know they were waiting because they didn't want to order it until it was done. And I actually, one of those people, when I get previews of stuff, I actually don't really use them. I look at them. But the thing is that if I put this out, it actually will be done. Like, if we put this out, this is going to be the same version you'll get in like version 2, or
like those portions of it will be done.
That's
just
done.
Don't have the whole book.
Yeah, right. It will be done. It's not like, I mean, maybe there might be some small changes. Someone finds a typo or something, but like you will have like, okay, this is the ancestry. When I put out the second version, that's going to be the same layout. It's going to be the same text, so you can start now. And if people are interested in that might be a way to go. I mean, it's a little bit of work, but I kind of just want to get it out to people so they can start using it. And quite frankly, a lot of it is done. And
it wouldn't be that hard. I would just stop working on the balance and move into playtester feedback on
well, you're almost done with the balance, so and I just want to finish the balance.
Yeah, I could finish the balance this week, and then next week, before doing those dragons, I could do the playtester.
I would do that. I would do that instead. Okay. Because what, the dragons though are important. I feel
they
obviously
are just a very weird thing that, in my opinion, they are the weirdest thing we have done, because they don't actually truly belong in any of the books that we're putting out, but we promised it in the Kickstarter.
Well, they are cool dragons, and they add to the world. That's why they're important.
Good, and they're well. I looked at like one of the first ones yet. They're well written. They're fantastic. They're one of the coolest.
Well,
things
I also felt
they don't belong in the adventure path because you don't fight one in the adventure path, and they don't belong in the character guide because the players aren't going to. Well,
you fight things that are similar. Don't say you don't fight
those stat blocks.
No, those stat blocks. No,
that's
you don't fight those. Oh, right, no, those dragons you don't fight.
They don't belong in the adventure path necessarily because you don't fight those exact dragons, and they don't exactly belong in the character guide because you don't.
Well, I felt I felt all the dragons that you came out with Dragon Ancestry needed to have a dragon associated with it. So that's why I'm like, we had to do it just to do that. We
had to do it. It just didn't quite fit in either of the books.
It doesn't really fit anywhere.
It's a little less important.
It doesn't I don't know where it goes.
So let's move to the next question. It says, will each element launch have just one Eldamon with the pet and the battle and the evolved form, or will there be more? So the answer is there's going to probably be 4 of the primary elements, and that means that is already 120 Eldamon of the 160 plus that we have.
Wait, what are you talking about?
That we're going to do. If there's 4 that each have a pet and battle and evolve, for each of the 10 elements, that's 120. Now, if we've already said there's going to be at least 160 multiple times. So if we absolutely don't hit any of the stretch goals, which would put us up there, then we may do a couple more of some of those starting elements to hit that. But I have a suspicion we'll hit at least some stretch goals and we'll get to 160 that way, because even just adding one more element adds, if they have 4, adds 12 Aldebaran. So that is my answer to.
And I see your quote here. I've heard this quote a million times. A delayed game is eventually good. A rush game is bad forever. I've also said this in my own work, is like, you can only do something once, and once you do, so the thing with the Indigo Isles is that it's so close. And there are parts that we can release. Like, I can release, and I'm probably going to, the first adventure without releasing Adventure 2 and 3, because even if I release Adventure 2 and 3, there is, unless you are insane, there is no way you will finish Adventure 1 before Adventure 2 is released. It's just too big, and it's too complex. I mean, you could.
Order of the Amber Die play like an AP part in like one weekend?
Yes, and I am an honorary member, but they're also insane.
You were an honorary member. That's what I was saying.
They're insane, and they only do it for things that are completely released. And they've gotten old because now the new one they're doing is Abomination Vaults, because even a 6-part adventure is too much for them. They can't do it anymore.
Fair enough.
Yeah, but they only do it with completed adventures, and they're playing Jewel of the Indigo Isle. Okay. So, but they're waiting for the whole thing.
They're going to wait for the whole one. That makes sense.
Yeah.
So let's see. David Green is wondering if there's going to be new stickers for the monsters from Strange and Unusual.
Here's the thing.
Did the stickers do well enough for that?
I don't know, because the stickers are pretty easy to do, and I want to do the stickers.
I like them. They're really cute. Linda put one on her Paizophon,
I'm getting really mixed reaction, because during the Kickstarter, people did not like the stickers, and no one cared about the stickers. So I'm like,
I think the reason people gave you negative feedback during the Kickstarter is because, and you were trying to be responsible here, but you made them be stretch goals, and they didn't feel like it was worthy of a stretch goal, like in the space of what a stretch goal could be. Whereas a whole new element for Eldamon, I think, is going to spark people's imagination.
Well, I was trying to do something different, and also, quite frankly, each of those pictures aren't free. It wasn't oh yeah, like this pictures cost money. Like, this takes time, money, effort.
I was I wasn't working for you full time there, but I was like, I appreciate it if a sticker is a stretch goal, because it means I don't have to do like a lot more work myself for
right. I mean, exactly. So it was a lot. Yeah, I don't know. The stickers are pretty easy to do. Maybe we add it as a stretch goal. or maybe I don't know. I'm kind of do people like them? I mean, I don't know. I don't know if people like them. It seemed like I did a lot of research, and it's like the things people really, really liked is content, which is why we added a lot of content. They really like minis, so that I got taken care of because we have the people who do WizKids minis. There's literally a sculpting. This is a secret, but I'm telling it anyhow. There's a group, and there's like 8 of them, and they do sculptures for WizKids and a lot of other companies out there. I'll just leave it at that. And I hooked up with them, and they're great, and they're doing all my sculpts. So I literally have the same people doing WizKids, and in fact, I've seen how they do the WizKids. Pretty cool. They showed me the whole process. So these guys know what they're doing because this is all they do. It's 6 of them. So that I got taken care of. And dice.
James had
people like dice.
Do you feel that the plus or minus 10 crits limit the amount of granularity you can give with bonuses? LeBomb James then claims without it, you can safely give between a +1 to maybe +8, but in 2E, you have to seriously consider giving anything more than a +2. I will say that in that case, the plus or minus 10 is helping, because if the roll actually matters and is going to do something major, you can never safely give out a +8. That's too much to give out, like, for a big roll. If it's something where it's like, oh, you know, whatever, like, did you hit or not on a regular damaging attack, and you're going to hit you're going to hit this thing probably anyway, and the +8 was so big, it just kind of took you from a 75% chance to a 95% chance it was really a +4 and you lost the other 4, then like fine. But really in other systems, more than like a +4 and you're doing something pretty wild. So which is, and a +4 in other systems in some ways can be similar to a +2 in 2E, not always. So if it caused you to go from thinking a +8 was okay to a +2 was okay, then I would say that it both had an effect and it caused you to understand the die rolls in a way that was beneficial, I think. The problem is that people they see a 1, or they see it, especially a 1, and are just like, this is the worst. It's a 1. Why am I getting a 1? That sounds like it's bad. Whereas in a percentile-based system, or in any of those computer RPGs Steven was talking about, like if you were going up a talent tree in your computer RPG, and I told you, I'm going to make something that's the same as raising your AC in Pathfinder, and I was like, this is your talent tree. You could take ranks in this skill, I'll call it dodge, and each one gives you a 5% chance to avoid the enemy's attack, even not in Pathfinder 2nd, right? In Pathfinder 1st or something else like that. And it's cumulative. So it doesn't give you a multiplier, times 0.95 each time. It's 95% chance to be hit, then a 90, then an 85, then an 80, and so on. That would be valued extremely highly in almost any computer game. Like it would be a must-take talent to be able to stack up and remove 5% chance of being hit. It's only because of the psychology of the way a 1 looks that there's definitely trouble with using +1s in D20 games.
Hey, so I see we have 25 likes. I'll tell you what, I don't know how we'll do it, but get your friends in here. If we get 50 likes, I will show you my doggy. I will show you
there
Zoe.
You go. People want to see dog.
You want to see
and
Zoe? She's sitting right here.
Be here today, so
she loves me.
See.
She hangs out with me all the time.
So Giant B is wondering, can you talk about nymphs and who is this Ethereum next person? So like nymphs are a type of fae in Pathfinder 2nd edition that are guardians of sort of particular natural areas that are tied to them. PC nymphs obviously have found a way to break the tie, because we don't want to make it so if you are a dryad, it's like you can only adventure within like a certain number of feet from this one oak tree. If your adventure goes beyond that oak tree, well, you're going to die. No, we're not going to do that. So they've broken their bond with the place that they're in, and they've freed themselves to be able to go wherever they want in the world and become adventurers. And that's sort of their deal. So they are a fae that is associated with some kind of natural thing. Naiads are associated with fresh water, and dryads are associated with trees. Can often be an oak. And so that's their situation. Iteria Nix is a mysterious person who is writing these entries, and is said to be the herald of the space element, whatever that is. So you'll have to find out more about Iteria later on as we continue to reveal some more of her writing.
Yeah, so
I will say that her pronouns are she, her.
So someone asked about the pins, and here's another one. I did the pins, but the thing is, again, it's like we could do anything: fridge magnets, pins, art, maps, minis, stickers. But it was very I don't know, if people let me know what they really, I should put out a poll or something, because it's very, I'll put it this way: the people who are very adamant of what they didn't like, they were very loud, and then I put them out, but then no one like no one actually ordered pins. They did get them part of their pledge levels, but no one actually ordered them. So I'm like, does that mean they're just getting them through the pledge levels, or not? Like, I don't understand. It's very hard for me to gauge interest. I'll tell you what people did like: dungeon ancestry. That people liked. that has been downloaded thousands upon thousands upon thousands of times for 5e and Pathfinder. That people like. I know that. So that's why we're doing Year of Monsters.
Yeah.
Are we out of questions? We might be.
Yeah, good. I mean, we went, you said that you were originally thinking of a shorter episode, and we kind of went to our normal episode time almost.
Yeah.
So there were a lot of great questions. I was worried if we would have enough questions since we had to delay the stream twice, but you guys really brought some really great questions for us. And Seas of Ages is gonna roleplay nymph wheeling around a wheelbarrow with the tree in it. Well, you know what? In the Jade Regent game I ran, they had a dryad who bonded to a bonsai tree that the party had with them, and it was the same tree that had a bonsai kami bonded to it, so they wound up bringing the dryad along.
What else if you kept it in just a bag of holding?
I don't know, Steven. So yeah, we
how much art's been done for Strange and Unusual? Like 15%. I haven't gone crazy yet because we also have to get the monsters. It takes a long time to come up with the art orders. It takes a few hours per monster, so I've been doing a few here and there just to get them going, and obviously for the Kickstarter. But
yep.
Ooh, Oily Ride wants to ask a Pathfinder First Edition maths question.
That's okay.
Wow. Okay. I haven't played First Edition. You still play First Edition? I haven't played it in...
I do. I still play First Edition as well.
Ooh, we got a raid or something?
We got a raid right when we were about to end.
Wait, how's that happen?
Welcome, Indestructiboy. I didn't even know there were raids in
There's
YouTube.
Raids
in Twitch.
And YouTube? I didn't even know that. Well, if we get 30, 40, 50, I can't get mad. Math. I'm bad at math. 50 likes.
50 likes will make the dog appear.
I will show you my dog. She just got groomed. She's a Wheaten Terrier. I have two, so I can do this twice. I can show you Zoe, who does not like to get picked up, even by me, but Ruby loves to get picked up. But Zoe's the one who hangs out with me because she's like my dog, and Ruby is my wife's dog. So, but Zoe's my dog.
Go. So you have one dog who loves the one room that has the books and the other nerd hobby stuff.
Well,
and then the other dog who's like snobbily, like, I'm not going to go into that room. It has the RPG stuff in it.
She actually is. She rarely comes in here, but I have multiple beds, and she's always in here. She just wanders around going from bed to bed, because sometimes they're both in here. But obviously, so she's got a choice of beds. She's on the floor right now. She likes to go all over the place. Her favorite thing is putting her face on the air conditioning vent.
Well, it looks like a Shandarai is not only a polearm from the Wheel of Time, but also said that they would have pledged less if they couldn't get the pins and the minis and the cloth map.
Fair enough.
Ollie Wright did give us a
okay, now we got to pay attention.
Maybe one last super chat.
All right, got to pay attention.
For 1E, is power attack worth it for 3/4 base attack bonus classes with two-handed weapons or one-handed? I've always wondered.
That's all you.
Is that it really depends on what other accuracy boosts you're getting.
There you go. That's it. See ya.
But I'll specify it slightly more, by which I mean, if you're getting the kind of accuracy boost that many Pathfinder first edition 3/4 base attack bonus classes have, that just basically put them to the same point as all the full base attack bonus classes. So they're mostly just losing that extra attack at the end. Then you might as well. You don't get as much bonus damage, but in Pathfinder first edition, it's usually pretty and even if you don't have those, there's a lot of ways that you can cheese your accuracy so that you hit pretty much guaranteed against the monsters in the bestiary. And if you have that, you, even though you're getting less damage, you're losing less accuracy. It's pretty much constantly worth it for two-handed weapons. It's generally worth it for one-handed weapons. There could be some cases for one-handed weapons where you didn't cheese your accuracy as much as usual in 1E, and you have a large amount of bonus damage coming from your class where you don't want to use it. But if you don't have both of those two things being true, it's pretty much useful all the time. It's problem is it's impossible to say in 1E because of the fact that like Ollie could have written he's talking battle cleric, could have written a battle cleric that has like 40 less accuracy than the battle cleric in my game or something like that at the same level. And we're talking about totally different things if we have a difference of 40 in our attack bonus. Oh, Cheese of Ages has another super chat question. Cheese of Ages is still writing a joke sandwich ancestry and wants to reference roll for combat. So needs to know what our favorite sandwiches are.
So I'm going to ask everyone here, is a hot dog considered a sandwich? Now think about it. I always like this one because it's got bread, it's got meat. Now the layout's a little different than a traditional sandwich, but is a pita a sandwich? Now people call pita a pita, so it's not really a sandwich, but in theory it could be a sandwich. So is a hot dog considered a sandwich, or is it considered its own thing? So it's a little tricky. And now, is a hamburger considered a sandwich? Again, people.
I think the hamburger is definitely
definitely a sandwich. In fact, they're originally called hamburger sandwiches, but
yeah,
people call them hamburgers because, again, they become their own thing. So, my favorite sandwich will unfortunately probably have to be hamburger, but I like hamburger with cheese and a fried egg on it. That's my favorite sandwich.
Fair enough. I almost never eat sandwiches, but when I do, maybe like a caprese sandwich with mozzarella, basil, and tomatoes.
Yeah, that's good too. I mean, I actually eat a lot of sandwiches, but almost every day. In fact, I got a sandwich waiting for me right now. I usually have a lot of chicken and turkey sandwiches. I actually rarely eat. I eat hamburgers like once every couple of months. I do eat a lot of hot dogs because I got a lot of baseball games. So there you go.
That makes sense.
And I actually, it's just a thing you do. If you're at a baseball game, you have to have a hot dog. Hot dog is a taco. Yes, I guess it could be.
There you go.
It's not really. It's neither, if you think about it. That's something I was going to say. You see, meat inside sandwich bread. You know, it's like those ones where they show you the dog and like how does a dog wear its pants? Whether it's like all four legs or just the last two legs. It's the same thing. It's like, is a hot dog a sandwich? Is a taco a sandwich? Is a pita a sandwich? I don't know. What about you, Mike?
We'll leave that to all of you. We'll leave that exercise to you in the comments.
Mark's like, I don't want to touch that. He has no idea. He doesn't want to.
I've seen that there have been huge wars about whether a hot dog is a sandwich. I don't want to get
cheesesteak. Cheesesteak is totally a sandwich because it's like, that's steak and bread, but I get it because it's a hoagie.
I try to stay out of
is
giant
major
sandwich? Wars, like whether a hot dog is a sandwich. Like,
oh, really? I love that. It's like that because it's fascinating on how far you go back, because then you also have like the originations of these items, and like
I think that people can decide whether they feel that a hot dog is a sandwich to them. And I'm okay with letting them define that.
I always think
there's nothing about a word that guarantees that the way I think about that word means that other people can't think something else.
And right, if you go to
many things in our world are like people are literally ready to do violence to each other because of the fact that they're not willing to accept that the other person could have their own interpretation of what the
Correct.
word means. So,
well, it's more. This is. I don't think people are going to war over hot dog is or is not a sandwich. I think it's just a fun thought exercise because it's not something you think about and then you go, "Huh, I guess it could be." And then, but I was about to say, if you go to other countries, then it gets interesting because they will look at something you think of as one way and they'll think of it completely differently. Like a good example is peanut butter, which now is like a lot more spread out. But peanut butter is like only eaten in America. Like people used to think. I remember we would have like au pairs, or I would go to camps and there'd be people from other countries there as counselors, and they thought peanut butter was the weirdest thing. They're like, peanut butter, and they never heard of it. They never had it. It was not in the shelves. It was not something they ate. They would all try it, and then they would all be like, this is the greatest thing I've ever eaten in my life. And then they would all like stock up and bring it back to their countries. Of course, I imagine today you can find it anywhere. But here's, you want to do something interesting?
Wait, I think I figured one thing out about hot dog sandwiches just now by Googling. In the world of Golarion, if they brought hot dogs over on Baba Yaga's hut from Russia or whatever, the hot dog is a sandwich in Golarion because Merriam-Webster declared it to be a sandwich, and whatever Merriam-Webster says is in the Paizo style guide when it comes to word use.
There you go.
So because Merriam-Webster said it's a sandwich, it would be a sandwich in Pathfinder.
Here,
so there you go.
This is what you always do. Now, I always do this whenever I go to another country. When I went to Japan or wherever, go to the supermarket. That's the first. You always go to the supermarket in another country. I guarantee it. It's interesting. And then go to the ethnic aisle and go to the American aisle. And you will be horrified at what you think we eat. Because sometimes they're incredibly accurate, which is horrifying in one way, or incredibly inaccurate, which is horrifying in a totally different way. It is very, very fascinating what people think Americans eat, and that is something I would strongly recommend.
I mean, in Japan, if you go to an American themed restaurant, like often like
they don't really exist.
The wait staff are like, I've gone to them. The wait staff are wearing like cowboy hats and all sorts of like getup that is just like,
which is it's something else because cowboys are completely fictionalized by Hollywood. And like the whole John Wayne, like every single thing that people know about cowboys is false. Because if you look it up, it was all mostly African Americans, mostly Mexicans, and even women. And the stereotypical like cowboy American did not ever exist, and that's why so many cowboy terms are Spanish, because it was all Spanish.
Mm-hmm.
So anyhow, it's fascinating because all this stuff, it's like everything that's based in this culture doesn't exist. So
that is true.
Anyhow,
so I think we made it through all the questions, and we're not showing a dog because we did not get 50 likes.
36.
So that is what it is.
I know there's not enough.
We
but
still
she's
had a
sitting
great
here.
stream with a lot of good questions from people.
Oh, she's sleeping.
She's sleeping.
So tired.
Don't wake her up. We didn't get 50
She's
likes.
so tired. Oh, hello, Zoe. Hello, Zoe. She's such a good dog. You have no dogs or cats. You have stuffed animals, Mark.
We have plushies.
No plushies.
If you're like, that's easier to handle for like when you're doing game design.
True, I guess. I know. I love my doggies. Did you ever grow up with animals?
Yeah, we had like snakes and and some really cool ones when I was growing up. But when the house burned down, they all died.
Oh my god. That's a terrible story. I'm glad. Wow.
We also had a dog, but it had died already before the house burned down. So.
Oh my god. I know which is worse. It's like my house burned down and all my pets died. I'm like, damn. Okay.
I mean, this happened, but you know what was important is my family weren't there, right?
Yes.
So that was much better than it could have been.
True. It's terrible. Had your house burned down? Did you lose
electrical
everything?
Fire, just boom, all of my childhood stuff, including Pokemon cards that I had not realized how valuable those first edition holographic Charizards were, and I retroactively was very sad because they are very valuable. And I had just not been following Pokemon cards since my childhood, and was just like, I'm sure nobody cares about these anymore because it was not a very fun game. And I was very, very wrong.
Yes. Wow. Yeah, Mark ending the stream on a dark note. Got to do something a little bit more fun. Now I feel bad. Here, I'll get my dog, and you can see her. You guys will love her. She's so cute. Hold on.
There you go. You got the dog anyway.
Oh, look at her. She's so cute. Hi.
See, your dog wanted to be on the stream. That's why she wanted to come in.
She didn't even scream. Sometimes she screams. Hello. Hey, Zoe. See, she's a cutie. Can't have everyone think about dead animals and house fires when the stream ends. You gotta say, oh, look at the cute doggy. Right, Zoe? Want to say something? No? Okay. She loves to chase animals. She loves to be outside. And she loves meat. That's her favorite thing. We call her chicken dog because when she smells chicken, she goes crazy. She's like, chicken. Chicken. Right, Zoe? All right, you can go down. Go back to sleep. All right, there. We didn't end on such a terrible note. Damn. It's like house burned down. I lost my Pokemon collection. I lost all my animals. I lost all my childhood memories. Here's a dog.
Yeah, the dog more than cancels out all of that.
I know. I'm like, damn. All right. Well, next time we'll actually have the stream on Tuesday like regular.
Yay!
And cheese pizza. If you take cheese pizza and you fold it in half, is that a sandwich, Mark?
I don't know. It might be like a calzone at that point.
Calzone a sandwich?
Oh, good question. I don't know.
You see? What does Zoe think of the 3-action economy? She loves it. She's often hasted though because she runs so quick.
Oh, there you go. Or does she just have an activity that goes faster, like horses gallop?
Yes, she has all these activities. Well, she's a Wheaton, and Wheaton Terriers are a handful. I'll leave it at that. I've had terriers my whole life, but terriers are super smart and like scary. So, like she like understands full sentences. Like we will talk to her and she just sits there and like will do whatever you tell her to do. And I'm sitting there like, my other dog Ruby is dumb as dirt, but she is a genius.
You're just like, Zoe, you've already taken 2 of your actions.
She knows. You've
already taken 2 of your actions. Are you what do you want to do? Do you want to strike again? She's like,
she
was like, oh yeah, multiple attack penalty. You're right. You don't want to strike again.
Is a genius. She is. I've had a lot of dogs. Like people who have very, very, very smart dogs or animals will know this. Like they sit there and they just know things, and like you tell them time to do this, and she does it. I'm like, damn. Like she just knows. It's incredible. Ruby, on the other hand, just sits there like staring at you, and it's like, oh, what are we doing? Like she just wants to be with you, but she doesn't know anything. You'll ask her questions, she just like turns her head. You're like, you don't know.
Do you think Zoe got to be smarter by hanging out in the room with all of your
no, because she was like this as
books?
A puppy.
Okay,
she was like
enough.
this from day one. Like when we first got her, and I've had like 9 or 10 dogs in my life, and none of them, most of them have been dogs, which are like sort of smart, but like she's like a small child. Like she's a genius. I can literally tell her to do this and she goes and does it, and I don't even have to like give like commands, and I'm sitting there like, my kids do it too, like do this, she does it. Like we'll say like go outside, she goes outside. Go get this, she gets this. Like you tell her to get things, she'll get them. You tell her to go upstairs, she goes upstairs. Like you literally just, and you have to give her commands, you just say to do it and she just does it. I was like, how does she know? How is it that my dog knows hundreds of words and I know none of hers? I don't understand. I know some of her barks. It's like the dog can understand hundreds of English words and I can understand like 2 or 3 barks, and that's it. So I think she is smarter than us. Would that be intelligence or wisdom?
I think that would maybe be wisdom, since in Pathfinder, animals are stated to have a very low intelligence score.
There you go. So she has a lot of wisdom.
There you go. All right.
All right.
So We'll see everyone on Tuesday for our regular scheduled time with our regularly scheduled program. Have a great weekend, everybody. And of course, you could see me on Arcade Mark with Linda on Saturday at 10 a.m. Pacific, which is 1 p.m. Eastern.
And
Bye.
you can see me too.